Hi everybody, Barb Moran from the Reedman Campus Wellness Center. I'm a program engagement coordinator here, and today I'm going to do a presentation for you, the first in our workshop wellness series, and the presentations on what's missing from your diet. Today we're going to be talking about what's missing from your diet, eating for pleasure, energy, and weight loss. This presentation is based on a book from Mark David, Nourishing Your Wisdom. Work less to achieve more. I'm going to ask you to stop fighting food and to start embracing it. Stop punishing your body and start providing for it. Slow down and enjoy. And then once you start to do that, you're going to get the results that you're looking for. So there's 4 common nutrition myths I'm going to ask you to leave behind. So bear with me on this. The first one is myth 1. The best way to lose weight is to eat less and exercise more. We're going to break these down as we move through the presentation. Myth 2, the reason you eat too much is your lack of willpower. Myth 3, as long as you eat the right foods in the right amounts, you'll ensure good health and you'll lose weight. Myth 4, the experts are your ultimate source of reliable and scientifically accurate nutrition information. So the definition of metabolism, as I looked it up in the dictionary, is metabolism is the sum total of all chemical reactions in the body. What I'm going to ask you to, and what Mark David's book asks you to do in the Slow Down Diet, is metabolism is the sum total of all chemical reactions in the body, plus the sum total of our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, and experiences, which is really a lot of what we're going to focus on during the presentation today. So at the core of me asking you to start to slow down your diet are 8 universal metabolizers. They've existed forever, for quite some time, but are overlooked for several reasons. 1, we move way too fast to notice them. And 2, we believe a metabolic enhancer must be exclusively in the order of food, like a pill or a push-up as you exercise. So the 8 universal metabolizers are things that you can't touch, you can't see, you can't bottle, and you can't sell them online. They're as fundamental to the metabolism as maybe vitamins, minerals, water, and exercise, and I would even argue perhaps they're even more important than those things. The 8 universal metabolizers: relaxation, quality, awareness, rhythm, pleasure, thought, story, and something we call the sacred. So let's kind of dig into those a little bit more. So the metabolic power of relaxation. Are you a fast and furious eater? Many of us are. Many of us are, working through our breakfast and our lunch at our desk. We're really not paying attention to what we're eating. We're just eating and working at the same time. Maybe having conversations, maybe in meetings. Fast and furious eaters, we're not even tasting what we're chewing or what we're putting in our mouth. Think about this. The slower you eat, the faster you start to metabolize. Body sensations when you eat fast, like during the state of anxiety or nervousness or stress, you might get heartburn. You might start to get cramping. You might not even realize it until after you eat, and then you start to feel some cramping or some digestive issues. Mark David in his book talks about vitamin T. And what is that? Make time for your meals. Actually step away from your desk or turn away from your computer and take 15 minutes, maybe even 30 minutes to sit down and really eat your meal while you're not multitasking. So that's one of the most fundamental nutrition requirements. And one of the things I'll mention to you is we have our nervous systems, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. When our parasympathetic nervous system is activated, our digestive is on. When our sympathetic nervous system is activated, think fight or flight mode. That's when you're nervous. That's when you're stressed. That's when the cavemen used to be confronted by the dinosaur, and they used to have to either run for their lives or fight for their lives. So in that day, their digestive system used to just turn off. That wasn't important at the time, and they ran for their lives or fought for their lives. So what was in motion there was their body, their legs to fight. So you want to be as relaxed as you can when you're eating. And that is what will help you start to digest your food in a more natural way. So your stress system, when your parasympathetic nervous system is active, again, your digestion is on and your body is relaxed and able to digest as it should.
This is really interesting.
So that's relaxation. The metabolic power of quality. So eating quality food is the most powerful nutritional strategy we can choose. This means any or all of the following: real food, fresh food, organic, lovingly crafted, grandma made it, mom made it, homemade, locally produced, nutrient dense, low in human-made toxins. We do a lot these days of eating from a box or driving through a fast food drive-through and grabbing a burger, sandwich, and going on with our day. So you're not only eating in that where your stress response is way up, but you're also, what are you even eating? You probably don't even know. It looks like a hamburger, but what is it really when you start to dig into it? So think about the quality of the food. An apple, one ingredient, apple, versus something that you get from a box. And if you take a look at that ingredient list, geez, there can be anywhere up to 35, 40 ingredients in those boxes. Stay away from boxed stuff, boxed in bags. There's ancient healing systems, Ayurveda, Chinese medicine. These systems, and I won't go into any detail here, but very interesting, they've long recognized the energetic nature of food. So when you're eating something that's live, like a plant, there's energy in that, and you're eating that energy, and it brings in good energy. Whereas if you're eating something from a box, a million examples there are, so I won't even go into that, but when you're eating something from a box, there's really no energy in that whatsoever. You're eating chemicals, you're eating things that if your grandma or your mom maybe looked at that box and she tried to understand what some of those ingredients were, she wouldn't understand, and we probably won't understand either. So think about eating food that you know and recognize what those ingredients are. Many people think they have a willpower problem, but really what they're experiencing is a lack of nutrient-dense food. So again, I'll go back to you're eating through the drive-through or the food from the box or the bag that is quick and easy, right? It's quick and easy, or the vending machines. Quick and easy foods to grab, but they have no nutrients whatsoever in it. So when you think you've got a willpower problem, you really don't. You're just eating because you haven't been feeding your body with the right foods, the right nutrients. So really think about this. Again, going back to quality. First and foremost, food is energy, and it gives your body information. The metabolic power of awareness. I think this is my favorite. Digestion begins in your mind. Scientists call this, this is a fancy term, you guys, CPDR, cephalic phase digestive response. Fancy term for the pleasures of thought, taste, aroma, satisfaction, and the visual stimulation of a meal. When was the last time maybe you ate with your family? Maybe during the holidays, or maybe just last weekend or whatever. You ate with your family, and in front of you was this beautiful meal that somebody made, or maybe you made. And so you smell it as it's cooking, right? So right there, your digestive response is beginning. You know, maybe your mouth starts to water a little bit. And then you see the food put on the table or put in front of you, and you can see it, and it looks really delicious and good. And maybe it's something you had before, so it brings back memories. So there's your awareness. You haven't even tasted that food yet, but your digestive system is starting to kick on and really get ready for it. So your smell, you start to smell the aroma of the food, the thought of the food, and the taste. So then you sit down and you start to eat it. So the metabolic power of awareness is really the mindfulness that, going back to the example that I gave you when you were sitting at your desk and you're eating your lunch, but at the same time you're working and maybe talking to somebody and in a meeting, you're paying no attention whatsoever to the food that you're putting in your mouth. So really think about being aware of the food that you're putting in. Like, look at it. Even before you put it in your mouth, think about it as you've got it on your fork or your spoon or in your hand and you're putting it in. Then when you put it in your mouth, chew it. Like, really chew it. More than 5 or 6 times. Maybe it takes 10 or 20 times to really chew it.
All right, take 2.
All right. So the metabolic power of rhythm. There's rhythm throughout our life, right? Rhythm of our heartbeat, rhythm of our breath, rhythm of the sun rising and the sun setting, rhythm throughout our lives. And that goes for our digestion as well. So one of the things you want to think of, and one of the things we do a lot, is we do a lot of skipping of meals, right? I know a lot of people that get up in the morning and they don't eat their breakfast. And maybe they eat around 10, or maybe they don't even eat until lunch or after. So really start thinking about your digestive tract is a rhythm. And it needs to be fed. It needs a breakfast. It needs a lunch. It needs a dinner, and maybe even small snacks in between. You want to think of your digestion as like this fire, and you keep feeding the fire. You keep stoking it with little meals, So your breakfast, and then maybe for your snack, maybe there's your apple, and then a lunch. So you keep stoking your metabolic fire with these little meals to keep it burning. So there's your rhythm. Be really careful about eating at irregular and unpredictable times each day. It causes our digestive tract and our calorie burning and the metabolic rhythm to kind of fall out of sync, and then your body starts to hold on to fat versus burning the fat. So really think rhythm. So the metabolic power of pleasure. And Mark David calls it vitamin P, pleasure. So again, think of when you're eating. Think about when you get around the table again. I'll bring you back there to around the dinner table, or around, a restaurant. You meet a bunch of friends out and you have this nice meal in front of you. The relaxation response triggers, and that relaxation response, going back to, your parasympathetic nervous system, it helps to relax you. It helps to decrease your blood pressure and decrease tension that you carry in your muscles. So really think when you're eating that you want to bring in that power of pleasure versus just eating to eat, and really enjoy your food. So you want to taste it, you want to chew it, you want to really enjoy that slice of grapefruit maybe that you're putting in your mouth, and really taste it. So there's the chewing that comes in with that as well. Try not to eat when you're anxious, when you're stressed, when you're unaware. A lot of times that's when we overeat, because we're truly not paying attention to whether we're hungry or we're full. We're just eating. So if you're a person with anxiety, and there's a lot of people out there with anxiety, take a deep breath. It's hard. It's going to be really hard. It's something you have to practice. But take a deep breath and slow down. Slow down. Taste your food. Take that forkful. Put that forkful of food in your mouth. Put the fork down, or put the spoon down, or whatever you're eating with. Put it down. Chew it. Go slow. With anxiety, we tend to eat fast. We don't pay much attention because you're moving on to the next thing, or you're already on to the next thing. It probably is so basic that you already know that. It really is about mindfulness. Yeah. I do an exercise in a presentation that I do on mindfulness where I have people hold a grape or a raisin, and I have them look at it and just kind of feel it. What does it feel like? Cold? Is it smooth? Is it rough? Whatever. Then eventually I have them put them in their mouth, but they don't eat it. They don't chew it. They just roll it around in their mouth. Is it smooth? Is it rough? If it's a grape, can you feel where the grape attached to the vine? And then I have them chew but once. And then I have them taste it. Like that, it's like an explosion of sweetness in your mouth, right? And then I have them roll the grape around a little bit more. Can you feel where you chewed? And then I have them chew it once more, and the same thing. And then I have them chew it slow, like maybe 20 times I ask them to chew it. Yeah. And by then it's like water in your mouth. But it's really slowing it down to that extent. And it becomes almost meditative. But yes, mindful is a perfect word for it. Moving on, power of thought. One of the most fundamental building blocks of nutritional metabolism is our relationship with our food. Negative thoughts about food can directly inhibit digestion through the nerve pathways, we talked about that, through the hormones, through the neuropeptides and other biosubstances. Positive thoughts about food enhance your digestion via the same pathways. So a lot of us, many of us have, maybe from when we were younger, or maybe now we have, maybe we had some type of eating disorder when we were younger, or even now. And so we maybe eat food that we shouldn't, and we beat ourselves up for it in some way. So there's these negative thoughts that we turn on about food versus just eating and enjoying and having a good relationship with food. Eating your meal, enjoying it, and then moving on to your next thing. We're so busy many times multitasking that the meal gets mixed in with the work, gets mixed in with everything else, versus just concentrating on your meal and enjoying it and then finishing it. It's done. So the metabolic power of thought and really thinking about the relationship that you have with food. Sometimes that takes digging into a little deeper. The metabolic power of story, and I think this one is, there's a really good attachment to the thought power there as well. So our inner story holds important keys to unlocking our metabolic power. What are the approaches to food that we've taken since childhood, right? I tell a story where my grandpa drove a truck for Hostess Twinkies. And whenever some of his product was expired, he would drop it off at my house, my family's house, where I grew up with. There were 5 children in the house, mom and dad, and all of our friends were always there. So we always had Hostess products in our house. They were all expired, but we always had them. Think about what some of our snacks were growing up. So a lot of us, not all of us have grandpas that drove for Hostess Twinkies, but a lot of us have things in our childhood that we were maybe rewarded with candy for different things. So we take those things from our childhood and we do something with them. For me, I'm okay if I never have, I hate to say this, I'm not picking on Hostess, but I don't need another Twinkie ever in my life again. But for some people, that would turn on that craving. So think about that when you're eating or when you're craving things. Nutrition and diet beliefs that you feel or felt strongly about. Some people, there was a period of time in the 70s especially where everything went low fat, no fat. Everybody was looking for that. And what we found was with the low fat, no fat came the addition of ingredients that we don't want in our bodies, but it helped make the product that you were buying taste better. So some of those nutritional beliefs have followed us into, now the current days. So really know what you're eating, the relationship to your body and your body image. So that's part of your story, right? The importance of life experiences with your health, with your energy level, with disease. Some disease, if you think just in general heart disease and some of the things that you want to stay away from, sodium, those are really important parts of your story. Sodium, keeping your cholesterol down, etc. So think about the power of your story and why you might eat or not eat some different foods. So the metabolic power of sacred. So our connection to the sacred can access little yet potent metabolic changes. So you can think of sacred as anything. You can think of sacred as a religion that you're practicing. You can think of sacred as a meditation that you do every morning. You could think of sacred as the walk that you take around the block every night with your dog. So anything that just starts to quiet down your mind. And so, but kind of going down the pathway of, there are some different sacred metabolic things that people do. They fast. They meditate. They go in nature, like the walk around the block or through the woods. There's sports that people eat a certain way. Yoga, people eat a certain way to become good at their sport or at their yoga. Music, dance, a sweat lodge. So there's a lot of different things you can do that in general Mark David is referring to as sacred, but they make you eat in a certain way. All right, so kind of think about that too. And by the way, they might not necessarily be bad things. Sometimes in sports, they can be bad things as well, though. But sometimes in sports, you want to eat a certain way to build muscle. Maybe, if you're a football player or a hockey player. So just be mindful of why you're eating what you're eating. And sometimes it's your lifestyle, what you're doing in your life as far as what you're eating in this thing we call sacred can also sometimes lead to other things. Like if you're eating too much of one thing, it might cause illness in another way. So just be careful and just be mindful of that. Okay, so the final thing I want to share with you, and this I really like It's part of Mark David's Nourishing Wisdom book. And it's called the Eater's Agreement. And I really like this. It's a really interesting and I think somewhat unique way to look at nourishment. So this is by Mark David. I hereby agree from this day forward to fully participate in life on earth. I agree to inhabit the appropriate vehicle for such participation, a body. As a requisite for the sustaining of that body and of the life that dwells therein, I agree to be an eater. This agreement fully binds me for the duration of my stay on earth. As an eater, I agree to hunger. I agree to have a body that needs food. I agree to eat food. I recognize that as the biological need to eat is fulfilled with greater awareness and efficiency, the benefits of my well-being will increase. I further acknowledge that ignorance of the eating process may cause undesirable consequences. Because the essence of my participation in life is one of learning and exploration, I agree to experience uncertainty as an eater. I recognize that there are a great variety of foods to choose from, and I may not know which to eat. I may have a choice of different nutritional approaches and not know which to follow. I may have an assortment of habits and not know how to manage them. I recognize that my relationship to food is a learning process, and I will inevitably make mistakes. Therefore, as an eater, I agree to accept my humanness and learn as I go along. I acknowledge that as the body changes from infancy to old age, so will the eating process change. I recognize that my body may call for different foods as the days, seasons, and years progress. My dietary needs will also shift in accord with changes in my lifestyle and environment. I understand that there is no one perfect diet. As an eater, I accept pain. I recognize that I may suffer pain when the body is disturbed by my choice of food or eating habits. I may also experience pain when emotional and spiritual hungers are confused with physical hunger. I further understand that eating to cure a pain cannot be remedied by eating. It may even bring more pain. I further agree to accept a body that is imperfect and vulnerable and naturally decays with the passage of time. I recognize that there will be moments when I am incapable of caring for it myself. I agree then that to live in a body is to need the help of others. I also agree to be vulnerable as an eater. I acknowledge that I will be helpless as an infant and will need to be fed. I may be equally helpless when I am old and unwell. I further recognize that even when I am fully capable, I may still need the warmth and care of someone who can feed me. Therefore, as an eater, I agree to be nourished by others. If I have a woman's body, I acknowledge that I have a special relationship to eating and nourishment. I recognize that as a giver of life, I am the nourisher of life as well. Whether through my cooking or the milk of my body, I acknowledge that the union of food and love is a quality that marks my womanhood and has a profound effect on humankind. As an eater, I acknowledge the domain of the sacred. I recognize that the act of eating may be ritualized and inspired. It may be given symbolic meanings that are religious or spiritual in nature. It may even be joyous. I further agree that eating is an activity that joins me with all humanity. I recognize that to be an eater is to be accountable for the care of the earth and its resources. I acknowledge that despite our differences, we are all ultimately nourished by the same source. As such, I agree to share. I recognize that at its deepest level, eating is an affirmation of life. Each time I eat, I agree somewhere inside to continue life on earth. I acknowledge that this choice to eat is a fundamental act of love and nourishment, a true celebration of my existence. As a human being on earth, I agree to be an eater. I choose life again and again. So again, thanks for joining us today. I'm Barb Moran. I'm the Program Engagement Coordinator at the Reedman Campus Wellness Center. We will be doing these wellness series monthly. Thanks for joining the first one. Watch our Facebook page for future sessions.